going to have until after church, probably. It's not going to happen.
That's mine, and if you, unless you've changed it, all your stuff is right here.
Oh, okay.
So that's up to you.
Okay.
But you just scroll up on it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't changed anything.
Okay. Right, and then that'll be there for me.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes, that'd be great. Okay. Welcome and good morning. Now, please rise as you're able to join in singing hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom of each of us, every color, every creed, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. We may share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. Greetings and welcome to all of you here and those who are joining us virtually to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch UUs. I'm Catherine Bonner. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at the church and your worship associate for today. During those Sundays where our minister is out of the pulpit, our worship team works with guest speakers to provide invigorating and sometimes out-of-the-norm worship experiences. And today's service will probably be no exception. I especially want to welcome those of you who are visiting us today. Outside our sanctuary doors, we have our Welcome Center, where you can talk to one of our ambassadors about our faith, about our church, and pick up pamphlets on who we are, or sign up to get our newsletter, The Contact, which is full of information about all the things that we have going on in our very vibrant church. Or we encourage you to visit our website at www.uucsarasota.com. There on our website, at the very top, is a banner that if you click on will take you to our virtual Welcome Center, where you can also find information about our faith, our church, and sign up for our newsletter. I invite all of you who are here on campus to join us directly after the service in the courtyard to share a cup of coffee or juice, a little goodie to eat, and most importantly, fellowship with old friends or even new to you friends. For those of you who are joining us virtually, there are several opportunities throughout the week to join in via Zoom for fellowship groups. Check out our website and our newsletter for those virtual gatherings. We encourage everyone to use our donate button on our website to contribute as you can so that you can continue our life at our church. And lastly, I would like you to consider volunteering in some way to help support our church life. Without volunteers to help with ushering, at our welcome table, with hospitality, and with our multimedia team who help make all of this happen, our Sundays just wouldn't be the same. And of course, I am always looking for volunteers to help with our children's programs. With the new year starting and our new minister joining us, it is even more critical than ever that I get some volunteers. I ask that if you have a sense of adventure, please, please consider giving one Sunday a month to either help play with children in the nursery or co-teach our elementary age class or become a youth advisor or guide in our teen group. It is all very easy, very rewarding, and there is little prep for you to do because I do all of it. Without you, these programs cannot be offered, and we will not be able to grow our families in the church. Please see me after church in the courtyard for more information on volunteering. And now we will light our chalice. Please say the words along with me as I light our chalice here in our beautiful space. We light this chalice
Thank you. As your worship associate, I'm delighted to introduce you to an individual to whom many of you will need no introduction, the current president of our board, Bill Payton. So Bill grew up in Akron, Ohio. He served for 4 years in the Marine Corps and returned home to attend the University of Akron, where he graduated with a degree in banking and finance. He spent 40 years in the insurance industry in a career that took him to 7 different cities and states. He retired from the University of Missouri in January of 2007, where he served as the Director of Risk and Insurance Management. And while in that capacity, he was honored in 2006 as a Distinguished Risk Manager of the Year by the University Risk Management and Insurance Association. Well, while attending a high school reunion in Akron, he became reacquainted with a high school classmate, Mary Fran Renault. Bill and Mary Fran are now life companions and moved to Sarasota in December of 2010. He became both a UU and a member of this congregation in January of 2011 and has been active on several committees. He has 3 children and 7 grandchildren, plays tennis, golf, and bridge, loves attending Sunday services at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota, and has done more than you can possibly imagine. Welcome, Bill, to our pulpit.
Thank you and good morning. We collectively have had a couple of tough years with the pandemic. We've lost members, we've lost friends, and we've been secluded from our friends and our family because of the pandemic, because of time, and because of distance. But things are looking up. Our sanctuary's open, and 2 weeks from today, August 14th, Reverend Jay Wolin will be in this pulpit for his very first sermon as our called minister. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. Now, I know most of you are not old enough to get ARP magazine. And I know you're counting the weeks and the days until you're eligible for that, but the recent issue had an interview with actress Angie Harmon. And among other things, she said that on a bad day, she looks around and she tries to focus on things that she is thankful for. That tree, the grass, her dog. And she said that she finds it hard to be sad while she's being thankful. So let us look around today. Let's be grateful for our neighbors and our friends, and let's have a really good day. Thank you very much for that beautiful music. I am nothing if not nostalgic. And according to the Oxford dictionaries, nostalgia is a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically a period or place with happy personal associations, as then I was overcome with acute nostalgia from my college days. So nostalgia is a good memory. It's a fond and a warm memory. And I would like to share a memory with you. At 8 o'clock in the morning on the day before Thanksgiving in 1961, I left Camp Lejeune, North Carolina to hitchhike to my grandfather's place deep in the hills of West Virginia. I was meeting my folks there to celebrate the holiday. And Pine Grove, West Virginia, where my grandfather lives, is a hard place to get to no matter where you start. And interstate highways did not yet exist. So dressed in my winter wool uniform, I hitchhiked up Route 301 through North Carolina into Richmond, Virginia, and then I hitchhiked up Route 1 into Fredericksburg, Virginia, and then you pick up Route 17 to Winchester, Virginia, and there you finally catch US Route 50 on your way into West Virginia. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I found myself just outside of Clarksburg, West Virginia, at an intersection of a Route 50 and a Route 19. It was very cold, it was very dark, and I had no hope of hitching a ride. Now at this intersection, there were some old buildings on the three corners, and on the fourth corner was an empty lot. But there was a phone booth. So I stuck my thumb out, which was hopeless because no cars were coming by. And finally I walked into the phone booth and I called my grandfather's house collect. I dialed 0 for operator. You remember those days. Well, I'm the operator who placed you over here that you're going to be waiting for your dad. And I thought maybe we could just chat and pass the time until he gets there. And so we did. And the time passed quickly. And when my dad arrived, she wished me a happy Thanksgiving and she hung up. And I have remembered that small kindness all of my life, and it brings peace and joy to my heart. So as we center in silence, I'd like for you to think back to a fond memory that you have that will bring warmth and joy to your heart. Take a moment of silence. Spirit of life, come unto me. Our words for contemplation this morning are from Jack London. Most of you know of Jack London because of his book, The Call of the Wild. Jack London was one of the first Americans to commercialize fiction and accumulated a substantial fortune. He was also a journalist, a war correspondent, and an activist. His output was prolific, with over 50 novels, 100 short stories, numerous poems, and 3 stage plays, all by the age of 40. And just a couple of months before he died at the age of 40, Jack London was having a discussion with a reporter and some friends, and they were discussing living and dying. And he reportedly said, "I would rather be ashes than dust." And he went on to say, "The proper function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. I shall use my time." Your gifts will now be graciously received. Has anybody here ever heard me speak before? Do you like reruns? I said that to Ava Whaley last week, and she said with her memory, every show is new. Our former minister, Roger Fritz, once told me that a 20-minute sermon was 2,400 words long. Well, unfortunately for you, this sermon is 2,438 words long. I will probably ad lib, so please sit back and make yourself comfortable. Now, I know you're thinking, what's Bill Payton doing in the pulpit? Is it time for the auction? Is it time for the stewardship drive? The answer is no. These events are still months away, and I sometimes wonder what I'm doing in the pulpit. It seemed like a good idea several months ago when I agreed to this. And there are many people more qualified than I to do this, but I am here, so I am reminded of the young minister who was not well received by his congregation. His deacon came to hear him speak one Sunday, and after a less than inspiring sermon, the deacon says to the young minister, "Why did you become a minister?" And the young man thought, and he said, "Well, I was out in the field, plowing the fields. I looked up in the sky, and there was a cloud formation, a P and a C, and I knew immediately I was meant to preach Christ." The deacon thought for a moment and said, "Maybe the message was to plant corn." So I'm not here today to preach about Christ, and I know nothing about corn. But I think you might be the perfect audience for this topic, because I know that most of you are retired and living here in this paradise that we call Florida. And another reason I think that you're the perfect audience is going to be evident after I ask this following question, but how many of you believe the average age of our congregation is, say, between 60 and 65? How many of you think it's probably between 65 and 70? How many of you think it's between 70 and 75? Aha! How many of you think it's 75 and over? Well, we have one person right over here. The average age of our congregation is 76 years old. For once in my life, I'm well above average. And occasionally, I wonder why I am still here. What is my purpose in being here? And it's a very personal subject for me. I think about this. I have had health issues. I have survived, but I am still here. So I am an avid, if not good, golfer. I have played close to 4,000 rounds in my last 40 years of my life. And on most Mondays, I would go through McDonald's and get a cup of coffee on the way to the golf course. For an extended period of time, I was greeted at the payment window by a man named Robert. I don't know his last name, but that doesn't really matter. And I found myself looking forward to seeing Robert every Monday, because he was one of the nicest people I'd ever met. He would greet you with an enthusiastic, "Good morning, how are you this fine day?" And then when he handed you your change or your receipt, he would say, "You have a nice day now." On a couple of occasions, I went through I went through the drive-thru with my dogs in the car, and he would have dog treats for them. He was just a very nice guy. And I chatted with Robert enough to know that he worked from 4 a.m. to noon on most days, and yet he was still very pleasant and very cheerful. But one morning, Robert wasn't there. And I asked the young lady, "Where's Robert?" And she said that Robert had had a heart attack. And he didn't make it. And it broke my heart. And I remember thinking, what was his purpose in life? I know many of you have flown on Southwest Airlines. In the early days, flying Southwest was a refreshing experience. It was an employee-owned airline, still is. They were the first low-cost, no-frills airline. They had no first class, no seat assignment, no meals, but the employees, the gate agents, the pilots, they were all very witty, and they had one of the best on-time arrival records in the business. In a 1999 book about Herb Kelleher, the co-founder of Southwest, he told the story of a well-to-do lady, we'll call her Mary, who took a trip on the airline, and soon afterwards she wrote a letter of her dislike for the airline. And she didn't like it because there were no first class, no seat assignment, no meals. And so she wrote a letter expressing all this, and it went to a customer service rep, and the customer service rep was befuddled because she was complaining about the very things that Southwest advertises as their virtues. And this customer service rep sent this letter on over to Herb Kelleher and said, Herb, I simply don't know how to answer this letter. And he claimed it only took him one moment. And he wrote on her letter, Mary, we will miss you. In other words, we are who we are what we are. So to all of you, I am who I am and what I am, and I am not Mother Teresa, and I'm not Martin Luther King, and they will not make a movie about my life, and that's a good thing. In 2015, Roger Fritz gave a sermon here titled, Using the Time We Have. And in that sermon, he referenced a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And Roger quoted from that book, it is not about you. The purpose of your life is far greater than your own personal fulfillment, your peace of mind, or even your happiness. It's far greater than your family, your career, or even your wildest dreams and ambitions. I believe that Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King lived the life that Rick Warren wrote about. But I have not, and I'm a rather ordinary guy, having lived a rather ordinary life. I am who I am. And so I attend services here on Sunday, and generally this place speaks to me. And I always leave church here feeling more benevolent, more at peace, and yet I still wonder about the purpose of my life. I lived my early days trying to be pleasing to my parents. I strived to do everything that would make them happy, and they would in turn do things that made me happy. Give me an allowance, give me privileges, let me have the car. And then probably I reached an area in those teenage years where I lived my life only to make me happy, and my parents not so much. But my thinking was definitely influenced by my parents. They were Republican, so I claimed to be a Republican. My dad drove Buick, so my first car was a Buick. My dad was a Purple Heart veteran in the Marine Corps, so I joined the Marine Corps, and you get the picture. In retrospect, I lived my life in stages. Getting through grade school, getting through junior high, getting through high school in the Marine Corps, and then getting through college. And it seems like, in retrospect, the purpose of each stage was to get to the next stage. And then I graduated from college, I got a job, got married, had kids, got ahead, see the kids grow up, go through the same stages as their father. Soon I'm retired, life goes on, and more than ever I ask, what is the purpose? The early purpose of life, I wasn't there. The early purpose of life was simply to survive. Life was and is a struggle. Early humans' total purpose was to feed and shelter themselves and to perpetuate the human race. Evolution and survival of the fittest. Fast forward, and here we are today. We take food and we take shelter as a given, but as we sit here, we are aware that everyone cannot take these privileges for granted. And now I've been retired for 15 years. Life is really good. I still ask occasionally, what is the purpose? And I wonder, have I contributed? Every week, one of my favorite parts of the service, we sing Spirit of Life, Come Unto Me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. And I choke up almost every week. I've been both a UU and a member of this church since 2011, and I am honestly amazed by those here who are full of passion. Indeed, they have burning passions about the environment, the homeless, hunger, gay rights, voting rights, illiteracy, and now again Roe versus Wade. And our generation was very passionate about those issues. And they marched and they demonstrated and they worked on political campaigns. And I assume we still believe in all these issues, and I believe we still probably are passionate about these issues. And I think we generally just think that life should be fair, that fair is just fair. But while you may still have these passions, if you're like me, you don't have the energy anymore. And I think that's okay. But I know I don't have the energy, and just watching the evening news wears me out. But today's issues are just as significant as they always were. And so how do I help and how can I serve a purpose? Our church, both locally and nationally, provides a foundation for those who still have those burning passions. And so I donate my time and my money to the functions of this church, and I find purpose in that. I believe I enable others to act on their passions, and I find purpose in that. And I vote my beliefs, and I find purpose in that. I think of Robert from McDonald's, and I look for purpose in my everyday life. Mary Fran and I have dogs, have always had dogs, and we walk them several times a day. We just lost the one on the right. But we meet other dog walkers. That's how we met half the people in our neighborhood. And we say hi and we chat. And we don't know the people's names. But we know the dog is Cody, the dog is Kiwi. There's one dog named Mojito. And then we have a lady who has two dogs, and the name of her dogs are Sarah and Sota. Sarasota. But we also encounter people without dogs, and I'm really surprised, but they can walk right by you and give you no indication that you even exist. And I wonder, how can you do that? So sometimes, just to be contrary, I just say, hi, how are you? Or have a nice day. And I find purpose in that. In the late 70s and early 80s, I conducted business with a gentleman in Detroit. His name was Bud Sias. And 20 years later, I'm doing business with a firm in Chicago, and their representative is named Steve Sias. So, of course, I asked him if he knew Bud Sias, and he said, yes, Bud is my father. I remember feeling very old at the time. And so several weeks later, when I got together with Steve Sias again, he said he'd talked to his dad, and his dad remembered me really well, and he said he told his son that Bill Payton was always up. And I remembered being pleased with that description. It's not quite a purpose being up, but it's a good way to be remembered. And in the winter, when the snowbirds are here, I run a golf league, and I run a bridge league, and I write and send out poems periodically. And when I don't, people tell me they miss my poems. I can't believe that, but that's what they tell me. And I believe most members of our bridge group and our golf group would describe me as up. And while not a passion, I find purpose in that. So here I am, an octogenarian, some health issues, but I'm hoping that I have not wasted my life, hoping that I have been a value-added asset, and I want to serve a purpose. I have thought things, said things, done things of which I'm ashamed, but I want to serve a purpose, and I feel that atonement is part of that. And back in 2014, we had a guest speaker, a UU minister named Michael McGee, and he delivered a wonderful sermon here on the subject of forgiveness. And he said, only truth heals a relationship. And he added, forgiveness is the process that reshapes our relationships. And he went on to say, let no heart be troubled by things left unsaid, and we must forgive ourselves for being imperfect. Let no heart be troubled by things left unsaid. And I find purpose in these words. And so I find purpose in attending to my close relationships. I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren. They are all important to me. But I wonder if they know it. How will they remember me? They're all different. They all have different strengths, weaknesses, and needs. So attending to each relationship is handled a little bit differently. But the one overriding issue is that they should feel good about themselves. And I find purpose in that. Mother Teresa once said, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. My kids and grandkids do things that I don't always agree with. But I try not to be judgmental. They live their lives and they don't need my approval, but neither do they need my disapproval. I am fortunate to have friendships that go back from 40 to 60 years. I try to attend to those as well. Made more difficult today because of politics, COVID, distance, and time. And many of my friends are further right than I am. But I truly love them, and I will not let Donald Trump politics destroy my relationship with these people. And I find purpose in that. And I attend to my relationship with the most meaningful person in my life, Mary Fran. I do not do that as well as I should. She introduced me to Unitarian Universalism. I thank her for that. She has given me a relationship where every day is not a battle. I thank her for that. I love her, and I find purpose in that. I also believe you can find a very important purpose in holding others to high standards. The ethical standards today of so many people, whether in industry, sports, entertainment, and unfortunately our government, are abysmal. And we need to let them know that there is a price for that. And I find purpose in that. And so I am who I am. They will not make a movie about my life. I am a UU in training. And as for living life to a higher purpose, I would like to again quote Mother Teresa, not all of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. As for my friend Robert at McDonald's, and what was his purpose in life, maybe it was just to make people like us feel good, and if that's what it was, it's okay, because he did that very, very well. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn. Our closing words today are from Stephen Grellet. Stephen Grellet had lived from 1773 to 1855, and he was a prominent French-born American Quaker missionary. He was impressed by the writings of William Penn, and in 1796 he joined the Society of Friends. He became involved in extensive missionary work across North America and most of the countries in Europe. And he said, "I expect to pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can show to any fellow creature, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." Stephen Grellet.